Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Daily Gwei Refuel, where I recap the latest news in the Ethereum ecosystem. I'm your host, Anthony Sassano, and today's the 16th of July, 2021. Right, everyone, it's 16th of July. That means today is my 29th birthday. I'm spending my birthday in lockdown, unfortunately. I had a bunch of weekend plans, and then about a day ago, or a couple of days ago, some COVID cases started popping up in Melbourne, where I am, and we have gone into a 5-day, quote-unquote, snap lockdown. So, really sucks, because it was the first time I had planned something in a while to basically just go into the city with my fiance and, do a bunch of things over there, but I am stuck at home. And Eve can't even pump for my birthday, so that's depressing as well, but it's okay. I think, I got plenty of stuff to keep me entertained, been playing some video games and things like that. But anyway, I'm not going to bore you with the details there. Just kind of wanted to mention it there and say that obviously I'm going to keep doing the refuel and everything and my newsletters and stuff like that. That's not going to change, and I'm probably going to be more active in the Discord because I'm stuck at home and not able to do anything else. So definitely join the Discord if you haven't yet. There's a lot of great conversations happening in there. But with that out of the way, I'm going to move on to the kind of news from the last 24 hours. So I think the biggest bit of maybe not news but drama, and this is probably going to be a little bit of a rant, not as much as yesterday's rant, but a little bit of a rant. Jack, the co-founder, CEO of Twitter and Square, announced today on Twitter, and he said, Square is creating a new business joining Seller, Cash App, and Tidal, focused on building an open developer platform with the sole goal of making it easy to create non-custodial, permissionless, and decentralized financial services. Our primary focus is Bitcoin. Its name is TBD. So to be determined. Its name is not actually TBD. He just described Ethereum, right? I mean, I quote tweeted it and said, Ethereum, you're building Ethereum. Now, it's no secret that Jack is pretty much a Bitcoin maximalist. He has not really ever had said anything positive about Ethereum in the past. I doubt he even really knows what's going on within the DeFi ecosystem. He's very, very focused on Bitcoin. I mean, you can see in his bio, it's just Bitcoin here. He's been doing a bunch of different things in that ecosystem, and I guess that's fine, but it just frustrates me when I see this, because it's like, instead of going and starting and building your own thing and trying to build on Bitcoin, which is impossible, by the way. You cannot build DeFi on Bitcoin. You can build it around Bitcoin. You can build it as kind of like side chains to Bitcoin, like Liquid or something like that, but that's a totally different thing. And you can do some limited stuff on the Lightning Network, but, the adoption there is after so many years is still pitiful. So I don't know what they're going to do here, and I feel like it's just such a missed opportunity for Jack to be a Bitcoin maximalist, because he could be building on Ethereum or building with Ethereum and doing so many other things with Ethereum. And it hurts to see this, because this is just classic tribalism at play right now. The fact that he's so tribal about Bitcoin and just has zero interest in Ethereum for whatever reason is just means that he's not kind of interested in building on it and not putting any resources from Square or Twitter or wherever into Ethereum. And they don't even support ETH on the Cash App. They only have Bitcoin on there from memory, which is just insane to me. It's like, it doesn't even make business sense to do that. So I mean, it just gets me a little bit frustrated when I see this kind of stuff happening, and when people with money and influence go out of their way to kind of, I guess, ignore something that they're basically describing. Literally, non-custodial, permissionless, and decentralized financial services. That is literally DeFi. I mean, there's not even any ambiguity here. That is exactly what DeFi is. And instead of kind of I guess, embracing Ethereum or kind of even mentioning Ethereum in this tweet thread, they essentially just kind of said their primary focus is Bitcoin. Now, I don't know how much of this is just Jack's little pet project, or if it's got other bunch of people involved with it. I'm sure, it's not just going to be him building it. I'm sure there's going to be other people involved with it too. But yeah, I mean, as I said, it's really disappointing. And you can see in the comments, everyone's saying the same thing. Chainlink God saying, so you're recreating Ethereum. Mahalo is saying the same thing. It's not possible to build this on Bitcoin, and it already exists on Ethereum, of course, and, other people Ethereum. And I'm glad people are calling this out, because it is total kind of crap that he's saying this without, I guess, mentioning Ethereum even once. And he has actually, the only time I ever see him talking about Ethereum is when he's replying to someone to kind of throw shade at Ethereum. When someone says, oh, you should support Ethereum, and then Jack kind of says no. I just don't get it. And it's so tribal. And, I know that I can be tribal at times, of course, obviously. I have been in the past, but I think that when it starts affecting like business sense and kind of like clouding your judgment of things, and you're trying to build things and whatever, and you're kind of like not even thinking about Ethereum and not even looking and researching that ecosystem about, based on what you're trying to build, I think it just becomes a pretty big issue. Now, I think it's totally fine that Jack, maybe he's not even interested in Ethereum. Maybe all he cares about is Bitcoin. That's fine. But from my experience, a lot of these people who say that they're only interested in Bitcoin, they haven't actually done any research into Ethereum. They honestly don't even know the surface level stuff about Ethereum. They've never even used an Ethereum wallet. From my experience, a lot of these people are kind of like that. So if you are saying, oh, I'm only interested in Bitcoin, not interested in Ethereum, you at least go and have a look at what's happening in that ecosystem. Like personally, obviously, I've said many times that I'm only really interested in following Ethereum, but I've looked into other ecosystems. I've used all of the other chains, at least the popular ones. I've tried them. I've tried their wallets. I've tried to see what they're doing, what they're building. I've looked into them, if they're, centralized or not, if they actually kind of, I guess, share the same ideals and mission statement that Ethereum does. And most of them don't. I mean, I've mentioned before how I'm a fan of things like Cosmos, which I actually think is a pretty cool design. And I actually think the Ethereum Layer 2 ecosystem is going to look very similar to what the Cosmos ecosystem looks like, except a few key architectural differences there. And I really respect the people building in that ecosystem. They're definitely in it for the tech, and they're definitely trying to innovate. But a lot of the other ecosystems are really just cash grabs at the end of the day, and a lot of them aren't going to go anywhere. A lot of them are decentralization theater, all that sort of stuff. But the thing is that I feel like a lot of Bitcoiners won't even touch Ethereum because they just kind of think that Ethereum is the same as everything else. When in reality, I actually think Ethereum is essentially what Bitcoin should have been. And I'm not afraid to say that, because I think that Bitcoin ossified way too soon. I think that it limited itself way too soon. And, that was fine for what they want to do, I guess, and what they want to become. But if Ethereum didn't exist, I think this space would be infinitely more boring if we didn't have a smart contract platform, because Bitcoin does one thing, and to be fair, it does it well, and that's be this kind of like store of value where you can have pretty good confidence that nothing's going to change on it, and you can just basically buy it and hold it and do whatever, and if that's what you're into, that's fine. But you can't really do anything else with it, and you can't even do payments with it. I mean, as I said, the Lightning Network is still kind of like, its adoption is basically flatlined, and I don't see that kind of like skyrocketing at all anytime soon. So really all you can do is hold it, send it to each other, I guess, if you want to, but it's so slow. I mean, you have to wait at least 10 minutes for a block. Sometimes it happens fast. I mean, 10 minutes is just a probabilistic outcome, but sometimes you can wait much longer. So even just not even looking at Ethereum and kind of like digging into it and seeing what it's all about, I think is just a really poor way to go about doing things. Anyway, I'm not going to make this rant as long as yesterday's rant, but I just kind of like was really disappointed when I saw this. And I wasn't surprised, because I don't expect Jack to embrace Ethereum at all at this stage, but I was just really disappointed that he basically said this kind of whole thing here without even kind of like alluding to Ethereum, which is just insane to me, because he knows about Ethereum, he knows about DeFi. I just think that he's got surface level knowledge of it. He thinks that it's probably all a scam, or probably all kind of like centralized, and he's probably just written it off without even doing research into it. And you've seen this play out plenty of times. Like I'm sure a lot of you have seen this on Twitter with other kind of like big name people. I mean, I remember Lynn Alden, there was a thread that they did, and it was about kind of like DeFi and Ethereum, and they were learning in that thread. They obviously hadn't done their research yet. And everyone was kind of like really kind to them and kind of like teaching them and everything like that. But you can tell a lot of these hardcore Bitcoiners just haven't done their research. They haven't looked into it. If you had done your research and determined that it wasn't for you and you don't like it, that's fine. But you can't not like something just on the surface of it. You have to actually dig down and do research. So that's my opinion, at least, anyway. And I think that a lot of people share that opinion, but still, unfortunately, a lot of people either don't want to, can't be bothered, have bias, tribalism gets in the way, whatever it is. So I'm going to leave it at that for now. I'm going to move on to some more positive stuff. Trent Van Epps put out an updated Ethereum upgrade path, a kind of like map here, which I thought was really, really cool. So you can see here, I mean, most of it you can see on screen. I think the bottom left is cut off. But essentially, what this shows is the journey to full proof of stake, to the merge and to data sharding, which is essentially, I guess, like the bulk of the ETH2's major features. Now, on the bottom left, you can't see it on my screen because the camera is blocking it, but it says December 1st, 2020, the Beacon chain launched. Now, this is the proof of stake kind of like path here, which is in green, and then proof of work, you can see at the top, which is in red, and you can see that the deposit contract was deployed to that proof of work chain, which is ETH1, obviously, and the proof of stake chain is ETH2. August 4th, London and EIP 1559 go live. And then next up after that, you have the Altair upgrade on ETH2, which is Q3 2021 there, then the merge. And that's when everything merges together and we have a full proof of stake chain. There's no more of this kind of like ETH1, ETH2. It's just one Ethereum. And everything's well and good, running proof of stake, no more proof of work. And then on the right-hand side, you have data sharding, which is due late 2022, early 2023, which I've spoken about a lot before, about how layer 2 is going to be able to tap into these shards for extra scalability. And then after that, I mean, I've showed Vitalik's big roadmap of Ethereum upgrades before. There's plenty of stuff coming. I mean, it's not just sharding and that's it. There's so much stuff coming, and at the kind of protocol layer here, at the consensus layer and execution layer, but it's not on that's not the purpose of this chart. I think this chart is mostly just showing the major upgrades chart. I mean, image is showing its major upgrades and the kind of like the journey to the merge. So I thought this is really, really cool from Trent. I think there was a bunch of kind of like feedback given in the comments and things like that from people, and still I noticed a bit more confusion around this as well. People were like, a lot of people still don't know that the merge is when ETH1 is going to be put into ETH2. They don't even know when they think it's I actually saw a lot of people saying that they thought it was coming on August 4th with London. I don't know how this happens. I don't know how this kind of like information asymmetry manages to manifest itself to a point where people are that confused about things. Obviously, they're not listening to the Daily Gwei and they're not watching the Daily Gwei, but just generally, I just don't know how these narratives spread. I mean, it's insane to me because I don't see anyone saying on Twitter, in my kind of bubble, that August 4th, when London goes live, that means the merge is live. So I don't know where people get this idea. And I don't know if they're intentionally being misleading to try and pump the price. I don't think they are. I think people are just misinformed and get kind of confused because, to be honest, when you look at this, me looking at this as who I am, like deeply ingrained into the Ethereum ecosystem, I look at this and I'm like, yep, I understand all of that. I understand what's happening there, blah, blah, blah. I already knew that, da, 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 da. If a relatively new person who is just getting started with Ethereum or essentially even been in it for a couple months, they look at this and like, whoa, okay, what's going on here? I don't understand what's happening here. What's this merge? What's this like London thing? What's the deposit contract? All these sorts of stuff. What's Altair, the ETH2 upgrade? So I can forgive people for that, but at the same time, I don't know. It just seems weird to me that I haven't seen anyone say that August 4th is going to be the merge. So why does that kind of like narrative form, and why does that disconnect happen? And I think we just need more and more education and more education in the form of like beginner friendly stuff. I know the refuel episodes are probably for more the more involved users and people who aren't total beginners, because I really do I guess like go deep into things. I don't kind of like stay at the high level, but there's tons of other channels out there. I mean, I mentioned yesterday Justin Bram's channel that I did a live AMA on. He does a lot of beginner-friendly stuff. There's also DeFi Dad, of course, but I think they're primarily focused on DeFi. What I think we need, and I wish I had more time to do this. I've been trying to do it for actually, many weeks, many months now, trying to find the time to do it. But I wish that we had someone who was covering this sort of stuff in an easy to digest kind of way, from a beginner level thing. Not like me who dives deep into it, from a beginner level thing where they literally make videos and they say, okay, let's explain this whole graph base, or this image basically, and let's explain each part of it in terms that people can understand, because I think that would be a very valuable kind of thing for the ecosystem. So, I mean, if you're out there right now and you're wondering how to add more value to the Ethereum ecosystem, that is a no-brainer, absolutely no-brainer. Just simply start doing beginner videos on things like this. DeFi, I think, is pretty much saturated at this point. We have so many people covering DeFi already, but we have hardly anyone covering the actual Ethereum protocol development, which is just as important in my eyes. And you know what? It doesn't even have to be the protocol stuff. You can start covering other things like DAOs, NFTs. Like, there's so much happening that, and there's really not enough people doing videos about this sort of stuff. And as I said, I wish I had more time to do it because I think it's very important, but there's a gap there to be filled. And if you're looking for ways to get more involved with the Ethereum ecosystem, I can't think of anything better, honestly. So maybe one of you guys watching will take that kind of offer up, and don't worry too much about getting things wrong or anything like that, or kind of making errors. You can always correct them later. But I think that I want to kind of encourage people to do that. I think it's really important. But anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. I'll link this in the YouTube description. You can go check it out. Check out this image and everything, and read the comments as well. So I was just speaking about Altair, which is the first ETH2 upgrade or network upgrade. So the DevNet one that the ETH2 researchers and developers put together forked from phase 0 to Altair successfully with all mainnet clients here. So you can see the fork happened at Epic 10, not without hiccups yet, but finalizing. And you can kind of like see it in the chart here that it all happened. So these are essentially like the first kind of like very first test nets. That's why they call dev nets, like developer networks, before we go on to, I guess, testing these kind of like upgrades on test nets and then putting it on mainnet. I've gone over the Altair upgrade before. Most of the things changing with Altair have got to do with essentially accounting things. So basically making it so the penalties are actually at the expected values for ETH2. Right now, they're actually neutered because they wanted people to get comfortable with ETH2. They didn't want them getting punished too much for being offline or being slashed, but those levels are coming back up. And there's a bunch of other kind of like upgrades coming in, efficiency upgrades, and a lot of technical stuff happening at the protocol level, but that's going to happen, as I said, probably after London. Could happen in August, probably September, something like that. But at the end of the day, ETH2 is still just the beacon chain. It's still just staking. There's no user activity on there just yet. So a lot of this stuff is probably not something that you really care to keep an eye on unless you're really into the ecosystem. But still, I think it's cool to kind of like keep an eye on it, see how it's going. Hopefully, it goes all smoothly. I mean, and that'd be really cool if it goes smoothly from, I guess, like the first kind of network upgrade on ETH2. So yeah, I'm keeping an eye on it for sure, and I'll keep you guys updated with it. So CADLabs on Twitter has put together a new open source Ethereum economic model implemented using a cadCad, created in collaboration with Ethereum's robust incentives group. So this group's been around for quite a while. They have done a bunch of research into things like EIP 1559, the Ethereum staking kind of like rewards and stuff like that. And basically what this is essentially similar to what I showed yesterday on the Ultrasound Money website, where you can play around with the different toggles and see how much ETH is staked, how much will be burned, all that good stuff there. But this, I think, goes a lot deeper. So this is modular, customizable, extensible, based on the official Altair spec, and an analysis and online courses available at this GitHub repository here. So there's tons of information in here, actually. I didn't expect there to be this much, but you have all of this information here, all these different kind of Python scripts and things like that. If you're a developer, you can jump into that. This is definitely not for end users. This is definitely for developers, but it's still good to see that these tools are available for us to kind of test our assumptions on the economic side of Ethereum. I think that the economic side of Ethereum is just as important as the technical side, and I really do believe that we need more kind of people working on it. As I said, there's the robust incentives group out of the EF, which is doing a lot of good work. There's a lot of independent researchers and developers doing a lot of good work. But essentially, this is a pretty awesome suite. I mean, you can see this kind of chart they put together here, which is basically what you can do. It's, as I said, it was similar to the Ultrasound Money chart, where you can basically set your assumptions and things like that. But this chart, it goes even deeper, and it shows you the supply of ETH over time at each kind of like point from Genesis. So you had Frontier, which was kind of like the Genesis block here, and then you had Homestead, and then the pinkish line here shows the ETH supply. The ETH issuance rate % per year. Then you can see it went down. Then we had Byzantium, and then I'm not going to name all of them. All the rest of the kind of forks here, and then you can see what happens when 1559 goes in, and then proof of stake goes in, and then you can see there's like an inflationary line and a deflationary line. And I explained this yesterday how post merge we are definitely going to be deflationary. I mean, as I said, like at current amount of ETH staked, you only need 10 Gwei to be deflationary as the minimum. And I really do believe that 10 Gwei plus is going to be the norm. I mean, even during this kind of crab sideways market, 10 Gwei has been around about like the average during the quietest parts of it. And then it's been more like 20 or 30 lately. So we're definitely getting a deflationary ETH post-merge. I mean, I don't see it not happening like that. But still, cool to see these tools out there. If you want to go play around with it, I'll link it in the YouTube description. As I said, this is more for developers that know how to play around with Python scripts and set up local development environments with things like Docker. If those words mean nothing to you, then you can learn about it, of course. But if you don't have the time to, then this probably isn't something for you to play around with. But this thread still gives you a great overview of what's happening and kind of has a bunch of nice pictures for you to look at as well. So definitely go check this out if you haven't already. So Kobi here from Starkware, I think he works at Starkware, or maybe he's just a big fan of Starkware. He announced this thing called StarDrop today, which is an experimental project to distribute rewards in a privacy-preserving manner running on Starkware's StarkNet Planets Alpha. And he says, "Yeah, I wanted to learn what Starknet is all about, so I created a small, I don't know what this stands for, VOPRF based protocol that experiments with privacy." So I don't think he works for Starknet. I think he's just a fan. But there's a blog post here explaining what he's done. It's very heavy with math and technical jargon. So obviously, if you want to jump into it, just be warned about that. Just be warned that you might get a little bit confused. I mean, I skimmed through it before and I was like, okay, yeah, I mean, this is like going way over my head at this point. But I think I'm still going to point it out because what I wanted to talk about was the fact that I've been talking a lot about privacy lately and how different protocols are coming online with different kind of like privacy tools. And the fact that Starkware's technology is already being experimented with for privacy stuff is really, really positive. I really like the fact that more people are focusing on privacy, especially at layer 2, because I think at layer 2 we actually have like another chance to essentially get default privacy on Ethereum. I think layer 1, as I said, layer 1's not going to be the end user layer. I've said that plenty of times. In the long run, it's going to be, layer 2 proofs and whales and stuff like that. But I think that layer 2 is obviously going to be the end user layer. So if we can do proper privacy at layer 2, I think it's going to be really, really important and positive going forward. So glad to see someone kind of experimenting with it here. But you can go check out the blog post to learn more about it. So Immutable is teasing the projects that are building on Immutable X. So you can see here, there's a graphic here showing kind of like which projects from gaming, marketplaces, DeFi, or collectibles are building on Immutable X. There is a ton here. I mean, there's some big ones like Animaka Brands, Guild of Guardians, Gods Unchained, which is Immutable's own game here, Lucid Site. Then you have collectibles. There's RTFKT, Momentous, Epics. The marketplaces, I mean, OpenSea is going to be on there, Token Trove. I mean, there's so many. Kenguin, which is huge, actually. Kenguin's a very big service. And then Superfarm on DeFi. I actually don't know what that is. Maybe it's big, maybe it's not. I don't think it is if I haven't heard of it. But still, this is a really cool ecosystem. As I've mentioned a few times in the past, Immutable X isn't permissionless yet, but they're going permissionless very soon. They're a layer 2 built on Ethereum using ZK rollups, and I think that they're going to be the, rollup of choice, or at least scalability solution of choice for NFTs and for gaming and stuff like that, alongside Polygon. I think Polygon has a pretty good moat there as well with gaming and NFTs. They're doing a lot of good stuff there. So really cool to see Immutable kind of like getting more and more partners here. And I can't wait to see these projects go live because, if Axie Infinity's growth is anything to go by, this is going to be a massive kind of sector. Probably bigger than DeFi. No, I would say for sure bigger than DeFi. I think gaming appeals to so many more people than financial services do. And I think that's okay because I put a tweet out the other day, or a reply to someone's tweet, where I said, NFTs in the front, DeFi in the back, Ethereum at the base. And that's exactly what it's going to be. I think people are going to be onboarded through NFTs. They're going to be using DeFi without even knowing it. And they're going to be using Ethereum without even knowing it, which I think is really, really cool. So I was asked to cover this Sushi Phantom Troop strategic raise here. So the TLDR is that Sushi is aiming to raise up to $60 million by selling 25% of the developer treasury to a bunch of funds and community members. Now, there's been a bit of drama around this where essentially they're going to be, the people buying it are going to be getting a 20 to 30% discount to the 30-day TWAP price of Sushi, and then also there's a bunch of like funds kind of participating in this as well. So you can see here, I mean, you'll recognize a lot of these names, like just going down the list here: Spartan, Polychain, Pantera, 3AC, 3 Hours Capital, Multicoin Capital, CMS Holdings, and the drama is surrounding the fact that people thought that SushiSwap was supposed to be fully community-owned platform with no VCs being involved, because that's what it originally was. It was kind of a reaction to Uniswap having a VC-heavy kind of like allocation, and until Uniswap did their kind of airdrop. This because SushiSwap launched before Uniswap's airdrop, and then now they're kind of, it seems like they're kind of going back on it with offering such a large amount of Sushi to VCs. And they did say that like 10 million of the $60 million they're going to be selling is allocated to community members, but that's like 1/6 of the kind of like sale here. Now, there's been a lot of discussion in this thread, 123 comments. I'm not going to go through them all, obviously. But there's been a lot of drama kind of surrounding this, and people kind of saying this is unfair. These VCs are just going to dump the coins when they've done vesting, because the vesting is, where is it? Here, 6-month cliff followed by 18-month linear vesting. What that means is that there's a 6-month lockup after the sale is done, so no one can access any of their tokens for 6 months. And then after that, there's an 18-month linear vesting, which means it would vest on a block-by-block basis over 18 months, the full amount that they're owed. And they can claim it at any time and sell it any time they want, what they've vested up until that point in time. This is quite generous, actually. One of the more generous vesting terms I've seen. But still, I mean, there's a 6-month lockup, which is okay, I guess, but still, they're buying it at a 20 to 30% discount as well. And, people these days don't seem to trust VCs too much or funds too much, because they know that a lot of them, well, not a lot of them, but like there's some of them that are really in it for themselves at the end of the day. And they don't really care too much about keeping something sustainable and growing it. And there's definitely a lot of funds like that. But there are a lot of funds that are very long-term aligned and definitely do care about projects and don't want to just like pump and dump projects and stuff like that. But it's hard to tell at times, because there's some funds that will do like a spray and pray approach where they basically invest in everything and they don't really care if they lose out on like 20 different things. If one succeeds and they get like 1,000x on that one, then that's enough to pay for all the other ones, all the other losses that they incurred. That's like a traditional VC strategy where it's essentially, if you have a 10% hit rate, you're doing really well, because you're essentially making up for all your losses. So there's a lot of that that's been going on. I mean, that's been going on forever in VC. But then I discussed the other day on the Refuel how over the index co-op kind of raise, where I said that I thought it was really positive that these kind of like backers were on board, because they can provide a lot of strategic stuff to the project, such as marketing, business development, hiring, all that sort of stuff. And they can, and I think the people and the funds that Index Co-op brought on are definitely fall into that bucket. But it's a fine line. It's a fine line between how helpful all these kind of like funds going to be and VC is going to be, versus are they just going to buy it and then in 6 months start dumping it and that's it, sort of thing. So but as I said, I think the real crux of the issue is the fact that people feel betrayed by SushiSwap's original mission, because of the fact that SushiSwap is supposed to be a fully community owned thing, and selling to VCs kind of goes against that. So yeah, that's kind of like my, I guess, high level overview of that. I mean, I haven't read through this whole thread. I don't know most of the arguments for and against, but I think that that's the crux of why people are upset. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. You can comment on the video if you want, or join the Discord channel and discuss this with us there. But generally, yeah, I would side with the people saying that this goes against the ethos of what SushiSwap is supposed to be. Giving VCs and funds, $60 million worth of Sushi, which is a quarter of the developer treasury. While that's good for the Sushi developer, treasury and development team, they'll have $60 million of kind of like, I guess, stable coins to play with. I think it's probably net bad for the project, because a lot of the community will feel hard done by, and probably exit the community. You just protest and you say, okay, well, this project failed at what it was supposed to do. I'm kind of getting out of here. So that might happen, might not. We'll see what happens. This has only been live for about a week now, but as I said, there's tons of discussion going on here. All right, so Uniswap Labs put out their first product update here. So they said, over the past few weeks, we spoke with traders, LPs, devs, and other community members to learn about their experience interacting with Uniswap. We're excited to share our learnings and improvements in the first of a regular series of updates. So they've kind of like put together this blog post here, which you can go check out, but they summarized it in this tweet thread, where they said, to simplify the process of adding liquidity, the pool UI now auto-selects the fee tier with the most liquidity. Advanced LPs can manually edit fee tiers, but this improvement should help guide new LPs to the most active markets. So essentially what they're doing is user research to see how they can improve the Uniswap platform, what can be better, what's bad currently, and what needs to be changed and all that sort of stuff. I think this is really cool. I think more projects need to be doing this, especially out in the open, and they need to kind of like be doing reports and updates on, I guess, how they kind of took that feedback on board and what they did to improve it, because it will help other teams do it as well and help other teams avoid making the same mistakes. So if you want to read this full post, it'll be linked in the YouTube description. You can go check it out. All right, finally here, a tweet from Frank Chaparro from The Block, who says the total stablecoin supply has crested above the $110 billion mark. So it's actually still at all-time highs. I mean, you can see here on the right side of the chart that it kind of like, I mean, it stopped going up as fast, but it's still trending up. And that means that there's new stablecoins being minted still. Now, I don't want to say that this means that that people are loading up on stablecoins to kind of like buy the dip and we're going to go back into a bull market like really soon and everything like that. I think too many people attribute things like this to bull market momentum and stuff like that. And it's not just this, it's a lot of other on-chain metrics. I see plenty of people thinking that stablecoins going into exchanges means that it's going to buy crypto. It's not the case. Like, I hate to break it to you, but that's not the case, because stablecoins going to exchanges, like a big amount of stablecoins, not just like little amounts, but like say $100 million goes from one exchange to another, or goes from like someone's wallet to an exchange. That can be going for a number of reasons. It doesn't have to be, oh, okay, that's going to exchange, so it's going to market buy BTC and ETH. No, that's not how it works. That could be going to cover a position that they've already taken out. That could be going there because they basically want to they want to hedge a position or do something with it. They want to kind of lend out their assets or whatever. They could be doing arbitrage between different exchanges. They could be hedging on one exchange and then hedging on another exchange and doing stuff between that. I mean, there's so many complex things that traders and market makers do. I mean, they could be market making too. They could just be market making on the stablecoin pairs for these kind of assets. So when you kind of see these things happening, I think take it with a grain of salt, these kind of like exchange deposits and withdrawals. And even for the volatile assets, like people will see, oh, wow, 10,000 ETH just left an exchange. It's bullish because like that ETH is not going to get solved. Hello. We have DeFi on Ethereum. That ETH can go straight into a DeFi protocol. That ETH can get sold straight into decentralized exchanges. Like I feel like sometimes when I see this, it's like people are trying to push a narrative and they're saying, okay, well, maybe if we convince people that this is actually what's happening, even though it's not the truth, if we can convince enough people that this is the narrative, then maybe we can actually, pump up the price or dump it like the other way around. And a perfect example of this is like the GBTC unlock from Grayscale, where everyone's kind of like shouting from the rooftops, oh my God, this GBTC unlock's coming. All these BTC is going to be market dumped and we're going to go to like 20K. I think people are pushing a narrative more than kind of like saying what's going to actually happen, because no one knows what's going to happen when it unlocks. There's no guarantee that BTC is getting market dumped. It could go OTC. It could not be sold at all. Those people who own that BTC could have hedged already, and that's the reason why we already went down. There's so many things that can happen, and I think people taking like the black and white view of the markets is not the right way to go about it. And markets are inherently incredibly complex beasts, and so much psyops going on as well. Like, people know that people are watching the chain, and all these whales know that people are watching the chain. So if they want to cause some FUD, this actually happened a couple months ago where there was a massive kind of Bitcoin on-chain movement that happened, and it turned out it was just an internal transfer within an exchange, but the price actually dumped because of that, because someone thought that, I think it was like $1 billion worth of Bitcoin was about to be dumped, or at least the market thought that was the case. And then nothing happened. What ended up happening was that there was an internal transfer done on an exchange, and people kind of like, I guess, believed it just because everyone was pushing like a narrative around it. So when you kind of look at those things, you need to kind of take a step back, view it objectively, and view it with a bit of nuance. You can't just take the black and white approach to it. At least that's what I think. But anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. I think that's it for today, everyone. I'm going to go and enjoy the rest of my birthday. So thank you, everyone, for listening and watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Give that video a thumbs up, subscribe to the newsletter, join the Discord channel, and I'll catch you all next week. Thanks, everyone.